On today's episode of the John Campea Show podcast, Oppenheimer, the new Christopher Nolan film, gets its first reactions and they sound spectacular. Also, best drama, best comedy, the Emmy nominations have been announced. It still looks like the studios are planning to starve out the writers before they go back to the negotiating table to try to end the writer strike. We'll discuss that. Also, we found out that Nathan Fillion is going to be in Superman Legacy, but there are two big things what we've learned from that nobody seems to be talking about. That and a bunch more. The John Campea Show podcast starts right now. Well, greetings and salutations, everybody. Welcome to the best damn movie-related show on the planet Earth, the John Campea Show, coming from right here, from our adorable little studio here, brought to you in part by our friends at Mint Mobile. I'm, of course, your host, John Campea, and it is an awesome honor and privilege, as it is every day, to have you, our international friends, gather around as we talk about our favorite things in the world, movies, movie news, TV, and streaming, and all sorts of good things, not just giving you our opinions, but giving you information and context so you guys can form your own well-informed opinions, whether they're the same or completely different from ours. I'm joined in studio today by Ray Ora.
Hey, what's going on?
Jonathan Voico.
Hello, everybody.
And writer, director, producer, currently appearing on CW's Greatest Geek Year Ever, 1982, the one and the only Mr. Robert Meyer Burnett. Robert, how you doing today, sir?
Good to be here. You know, there's a lot of really interesting stuff. Hollywood's a mess, but it's still very interesting, John.
And this is the first time that you've been on this show as a bona fide television star, as you are now one of the stars of the new series on CW.
You know, I often said I always wanted to be on network TV. I hoped it would be a network that used to have stars that would be in the battle of the network stars. If you remember that?
I remember that was a kid. Yeah.
I mean, I'm not quite on a network on that level, but hey, at least I could call my mom and say, "Hey, Mom, I'm on TV."
Turn on the TV to this channel and watch
And it
me.
wasn't just local news.
For all the wrong reasons. Why do you have a restraining order? Never mind. All right, guys, with all that down, we do have a lot to get to here, but let's start off with this. You know, I mentioned this earlier today on the YouTube channel. For those of you listening to the podcast, we do also have a YouTube channel we put up some short videos on every day. But we talked about this a bit earlier. Any year that a Christopher Nolan movie is coming, that movie will be one of the most anticipated films of the year. That's just the state of things right now. And this year is no exception with Oppenheimer coming out. Now, they showed us a big presentation of Oppenheimer back when we went to CinemaCon back in April. It looks stunning and jaw-dropping, but we hadn't seen it. Well, it's had its premiere. People have seen it. And the first reactions for Oppenheimer are coming out. And it's weird to say, but they're better than even I expected. Let's take a look at a couple of them. Matt Madem writes, Oppenheimer left me stunned. A character study on the grandest scale with a sublime central performance by Cillian Murphy, an epic historical drama, but with a distinctly Nolan sensibility, the tension, structure, sense of scale, startling sound design, remarkable visuals. Just wow. Lindsay Barr writes, Christopher Nolan's Oppenheimer is truly a spectacular achievement in its truthful, concise adaptation, inventive storytelling, and nuanced performances from Cillian Murphy, Emily Blunt, Robert Downey Jr., Matt Damon, and the many, many others involved, some for just a scene. Jonathan Dean writes, totally absorbed in Oppenheimer, a dense, talky, tense film, partly about the bomb, but mostly about how doomed we are. Happy summer. Murphy is good, but the support essential. Damon, Downey Jr., and Ehrenreich even brings gags. An audacious, inventive, complex film to rattle its audience. And it just goes on and on. Like I texted with somebody who had seen it and said they think it might be Nolan's best film ever, which that's a big, big statement when you consider the filmography of Christopher Nolan. But right now, I mean, it's a Christopher Nolan film, so everybody assumes it's going to be a contender for Best Picture. It's sounding like it's going to be right up there. Rob, you were at CinemaCon with me. You saw the presentation. We saw Christopher Nolan come out on stage, talk about it. You've seen all the trailers. What are these instant reactions doing, and where has your expectations been for this movie, and where are they now?
Well, first of all, you know, Christopher Nolan, since I saw Memento, has been a favorite filmmaker of mine. And watching him go to Warner Brothers and make Insomnia, then they gave him Batman, and then he quintessentially did one for them, one for me.
Right.
Then he adapted the book, The Prestige. The man he's one of those filmmakers that is truly at the forefront of working today. I mean, in terms of guys, I'll always run out and see a Fincher movie. I'll always go see Martin Scorsese's movies. I'll always go see Christopher Nolan's films, because whatever he's working on, it's going to be an achievement as far as cinema is concerned. Even like Dunkirk, you know, I was like, okay, it's a World War II movie and everything, but the way he approached that subject matter
was crazy.
And just the way he moves the camera and the in-camera effects that he goes for, and the fact that, first of all, this is like catnip for me, the subject matter, the historical Oppenheimer. You know, they made a movie called Fat Man and Little Boy, where Paul Newman played the same role that Matt Damon's playing. And that was an okay movie. But even watching this, Roland Joffe directed, even watching those trailers at CinemaCon, John, you could just, I don't know what it is, just every single shot. You look at a shot in this trailer, it's like, that's a Christopher Nolan shot. I don't even know, is it because the camera's up a little higher, the way it's moving? I don't know what it does, but he's got such a signature look. And to hear that this movie, I'll make a prediction. I bet you, not only is this movie going to be nominated for an Oscar, it wins. And it's going to be up against Killers of the Flower Moon, I think, having not seen this. And I think Nolan might win his Best Director Oscar with this movie.
I can't remember. Has he gotten even his nomination yet?
I
can't remember if he's even gotten his nomination.
I think he must have been nominated.
Ray, if you can look that up, see. I have a feeling he did get one, but
I mean, everything
remember.
like this is like a grand with the cast that's in it. People are talking about. I was reading an article yesterday about somebody who saw it in France talked about how great Robert Downey Jr. was in it. Not that he's not. I mean, he had Oscar nominations for Chaplin, but we've forgotten because we've seen him for Tony Stark for so long.
He has been nominated for Best Director in 2018 for Dunkirk.
Oh, so what? That's right.
So,
it was for
yeah.
Dunkirk that he finally got one. See, it's funny because one of the things that I read about it was that, you know, one of the few criticisms, aside from his inexplicable sense in the sound mix.
Yes.
Aside from that, they say, you know, when you look at Christopher Nolan, the big negative, this was somebody else's thought saying it to me, is that sometimes he thinks too four-dimensional. Like he says, it's not just that he's playing chess and everybody else is playing checkers. It's sometimes he's playing like Star Trek chess while everybody else is playing checkers, right? And sometimes, this one person said to me, that can get away from him a little bit, and hence we get something like Tenet, which, you know, some people just felt like it lost him and stuff like that. I heard that what they said to me was that he pulls it back a little bit and makes it a much better flow of a story that impacts the audience much more, which that part exciting. But when you're in your big criticisms about a director can be, the dude's too smart. I mean, that's not a bad thing to be your bad thing.
But, you know, he's got, I keep thinking, I go back to one of my favorite things that I've ever seen him direct, and it's a simple thing, was the beginning of Dunkirk, when you had that one soldier running around the city streets, and it was just the way, it was the composition of the shots, the sound design. He just dropped you right into the situation and showed you immediately how desperate it was. And that these guys are stuck on this beach just across the English Channel. And he did such a wonderful job of, he drops you down someplace, whether it's in Inception, whether it's the period piece of The Prestige, and you're there, man. Well, you feel everything.
That's the key, right? He's got this ability to make you as an audience member feel something by showing you something, not by telling you something.
Yes.
Right? And he elicits that emotion. All the previews we've seen from Oppenheimer so far, looks like he does just that, and the reactions tend to bear that out. All right. With that down, guys, let's move on to this. They're the Oscars for TV. The Emmy Awards, the biggest awards, highest honors you can get in the world of television, and the nominations have been revealed. Now, there are approximately 785 categories in the Emmys, so we're not going to go over all of them, but we're going to go over a few key ones. And we discussed this a little bit earlier today on the YouTube channel, but Rob wasn't here for that. We're going to start here talking about the nominees for Best Outstanding Drama Series. And the nominees are Andor, Better Call Saul, The Crown, House of the Dragon, Last of Us, Succession, The White Lotus, and Yellow Jackets. All right. I love this list. I love it. And, you know, first of all, I think Andor is the greatest thing Star Wars has ever made since the original trilogy. And there's a number of Star Wars things since the original trilogy that I really love, but I personally think it's the best thing they've ever done since the original trilogy. I love seeing Andor on that list. But Here's something interesting, Rob. We'll often talk about, the history of whether it's the movie academy, the television academy, having kind of turning up its nose to genre kind of material. If you want to count Yellow Jackets as kind of genre material, which I don't think it's unfair to do that.
Cannibals.
Andor, House of the Dragon, Last of Us, Yellow Jacket. 4 of the best drama series kind of fall under that category. And I got to tell you, I love this list. I think it's actually going to come down to Succession and Better Call Saul, with maybe an outside chance for The Last of Us. But I mean, I'm just so tickled to see Andor on the list, Last of Us on the list, House of the Dragon on the list, especially with House of the Dragon, because, going into it, there was a lot of uncertainty,
Yes.
right? A lot of people wondering, number one, will anybody watch this? Because a bunch of people were unsatisfied with the end of Game of Thrones. Is it too little, too late? Are people going to watch? Is it going to be any good? The numbers came, the quality was super great, and it's been nominated for Best Drama. Anyway, you take a look at this Best Drama Series list. What's standing out to you?
Well, every one of these shows is amazing. Like, there's not one of them that's like, it shouldn't be on that list. And you realize just the quality. We're in the midst of a writer's strike right now. These are all shows that are completely driven by their writing staff.
Yeah, absolutely.
And the quality of this, all of the adult, these, I wouldn't say all of these would be made as movies, but the kind of movies that I grew up loving, these shows represent. I mean, we used to get that kind of thoughtfulness in a 2-hour adult drama, something like The Verdict or something. I'm just pulling at it. One movie.
You're on a Paul Newman kick today.
I know I'm on a Paul Newman kick. I don't know why, but the quality of these nominations shows what kind of a golden age of TV that we're living in. Whether it's streaming or, this is all streaming because you need that kind of money. But the acting, the writing, the production values. This is all A-list across the board, and all of these shows, any one of them could win, and I'd be like, yes. And it's amazing that we're living in a time that has this kind of quality in a year.
By the way, you just point something out, and it's been a while, but it should be pointed out again. Andor, Better Call Saul, AMC is considered a streaming thing now at this point. There is a network. I get you could make an argument maybe it's a television show, but it's mostly just all dominated by streaming shows now. What were you surprised that Andor got on the list? Because as much as I love it, I was a little bit surprised they put it on there.
I think because for the first time, the thing about Andor is the themes and the presentation were done in a very adult manner. Star Wars is by definition a space fantasy that's directed at everyone. Star Wars was for the child in all of us. And so children loved it, adults loved it. Andor was not that. It was directed squarely at a more adult, more mature audience. It was not for kids. It was not a space fantasy. And the fact that it was dealing with the birth of the rebellion and what kind of an empire they were actually fighting against, like you said, and me too, I felt this is the kind of Star Wars. I wouldn't want all Star Wars to be like this, but seeing this was something that Star Wars kind of grew up with Andor. And it deserved to be in this list.
Let me ask you, though, if you had to narrow it down to 2 or 3 that you think are the actual top contenders from this list, who would you think those 2 or 3 are? Again, like Andor, Better Call Saul, The Crown, House of the Dragon, Last of Us, Succession,
To be honest, Succession's got to be at the top of that list.
Yeah.
I would probably say, for me, Succession, House of the Dragon, and Better Call Saul. But if you ask me in an hour, I might have a different list.
Yeah, that's right. One of those lists, right? All right. Let's keep going down. We won't spend as much time on them, but also let's look at Outstanding Comedy Series. Oh, by quick side note, I mentioned this a little bit earlier. Some people will notice the lack of Yellowstone on anything, because I don't think it got any nominations for anything. What I got told earlier today, and I can't verify that this is accurate, but what I got told earlier today was it simply didn't qualify because it hasn't finished airing its entire season. It only played the first half of the season.
Oh.
And we're still waiting on the second half of the season to come. Now, whether that's accurate or not about why it was not showing up here, I'm not 100% sure. But Outstanding Comedy Series. Abbott Elementary, the one real notable network show. Barry, The Bear. Ray's going to be tickled about this. Jury Duty.
Yeah.
That show's hilarious.
A freebie show. First ever freebie show, I think, to be nominated. The Marvelous Mrs. Maisel. Only Murders in the Building. Ted Lasso, and Jenna Ortega's Wednesday. Now, what we were discussing this earlier, Jonathan and I, but The Bear is awesome. It's incredibly awesome.
Incredible.
I am not sure it should be in the comedy series list. This should be nominated for best drama.
Yeah.
Because like I was
Especially
saying,
this season.
yeah, especially this season, right? Like you watch the Seven Fishes like episode, like this is, I mean, you giggle and chuckle, but this is like an 85% drama, 15% comedy. I'm not sure why it belongs there. I was saying this earlier, Rob. To me, there is one big glaring omission from this list. And it is a show that I think is better than Ted Lasso this year, that is better than Marvelous Ms. Maisel this year. Shrinking. Apple TV shrinking. I am beside myself. I can't. This show, I think, is the best thing on Apple TV Plus. And this is the same thing that has Severance. This is the same network that has Ted Lasso. I really, really believe that not only should this thing be nominated, I would have thought this would have been one of the top 2 or 3 contenders to win this category. And it didn't get on there. Okay, with that crying aside, I think this is Abbott Elementary's thing to win. It has all the momentum. Everybody loves this show. Maybe Wednesday could be a dark horse, but Ted Lasso, not its best. Marvelous Mrs. Maisel, not its best. Only Murders in the Building, not its best season. So I think it really comes down to Abbott Elementary with an outside chance of The Bear. But again, it's really weird because I don't even think Bear should be on this list. But anyway, you look at this list, what stands out to you?
Well, first of all, this list, like the drama list, again, an incredible list of television comedies. It's not just drama that we're living in a golden age through. It's also comedy. The diversity of the kind of stories being told. I mean, who would have thought a show like Barry would even get made?
Yeah.
You know, an assassin that wants to be a Hollywood actor. I mean, and that performance and the way that those episodes are directed. I mean, I just, and you know, even though Marvelous Mrs. Maisel, it was the last year of the show, it stuck the landing, I felt.
It did, absolutely.
I love that last episode. And I, like you, I think it's probably going to be Abbott Elementary's year. Although I think it did pretty well last year at the end.
Yes, it did, yeah.
Too. So I don't know. I mean, again, like with drama, I think you asked me in an hour, I would give you a different list of who I think would win. I like you said, though, if they give it to Ted Lasso, it's an overall award for the series itself because it wasn't the best season.
Was not its strongest season, no.
But still, all in all, this is an incredibly interesting list of comedies. And I'm like, if you take the dramas and you take the comedies, and if that was all that was on TV for everybody to watch,
yeah, we'd be doing pretty good.
And if you got to watch all those, yeah, man, I mean, I can't believe the kinds of shows and what we're having. The bar is now so high on these shows. I mean, I would give this fool an award, though, right, Ray?
Yeah.
I don't know. That show's funny as
good.
F.
Yep.
All right. Let's go over and look at, we'll go quicker through the acting categories here, but some interesting things. We're going to start off with lead actor, where I believe a first in Emmy history has happened. 3 actors from the same show are nominated for Best Lead Actor in a Series. So the nominees are Jeff Bridges from The Old Man, Brian Cox from Succession, Kieran Culkin from Succession, Jeremy Strong from Succession, Bob Odenkirk for Better Call Saul, Pedro Pascal for The Last of Us. I think they're giving this one to Bob Odenkirk this year.
I agree.
I think it was Chris who brought up this really weird stat that it was, or maybe one of our viewers who wrote in that there was something about that Better Call Saul has like something like 70.
46?
What's how
46
much?
nominations.
46 nominations in total, has never won one Emmy out of 46 nominations. I don't know how many it might win this year, but I have a feeling this year they're going to give it to Bob Odenkirk. I'll give an outside shot to Pedro Pascal for The Last of Us. Brian Cox, Kieran Culkin, and Jeremy Strong may split the Succession vote a little bit. But anyway, you take a look at this. Who do you got as your front runner?
I 100% Bob Odenkirk. Plus, he had his health scare.
Yeah.
I mean, he is. But by the way, deservedly so. I mean, from Better Call Saul all the way back to Breaking Bad, Odenkirk, I mean, he comes from a comedy background, and he turned this character into somebody who's not just amusing, but has incredible pathos and the dramatic chops that he's shown in this series. Give it to him. But then again, I mean, any one of those Succession actors, Kieran Culkin, man.
Yeah, he killed it in the final
this
season. Yeah.
And Brian Cox was only in 3 episodes. Spoiler alert. But I would give it to Odenkirk.
Yeah, Brian Cox has won the award before.
Yeah.
So, okay. Let's take a look at Outstanding Actress in a Drama Series. We have Sharon Hogarth for Bad Sisters, Melanie Linsky, who has 2 nominations, by the way, one for this show, one for another. But for Yellow Jackets, Elizabeth Moss every year. For The Handmaid's Tale, Bella Ramsey for The Last of Us. I love seeing that she got that nomination. Kerry Russell for The Diplomat and Sarah Snook for Succession. Man, this one is hard. Listen. I think Sarah Snook for Succession is going to get this. But I honestly think there is an outside chance they may give this to Bella Ramsey. I really mean that. I think there really is an outside chance they give it to her. Elizabeth Moss has won the award before. Melanie Linsky is great in Yellow Jackets. I don't think she really stands a chance to win. Sharon Horgan, I don't think she has a chance. I don't know. You look at that list. Who do you think is your front runner?
Well, I think you're... dude, this is a tough one. You know what? I got to say, I thought Kerry Russell crushed in The Diplomat. I thought she was incredible, but they probably won't give it to her.
She was so good in The Americans, too.
She's a secret weapon of anybody who wants to drop her on whatever show that they're going to drop her on. She's amazing. But I think Sarah Snook's probably going to take it because she was very, very good in this final season of Succession. But you might be right about Bella Ramsey. I mean, again, but Melanie Linsky's great, too.
Yeah.
I mean, but I got to tell you, if I were going to go for the dark horse, I would say Horgan from Bad Sisters, because that show is great.
Has any actor, any year, won 2 Emmys for acting in the same year? Because Melanie Linsky, again, I don't think she's going to win this, but she's nominated for This Is Yellow Jackets, and she's nominated for Best Guest Appearance in a Drama for Last of Us. She's got nominations in both. I mean, theoretically, you could see an actor with 2 Emmys from the same year.
I mean, I just like seeing that because the first time, she was in Peter Jackson's Heavenly Creatures with Kate Winslet, and going all the way back to like the mid-'90s. I loved her career trajectory, and I think it's so cool that she did get these 2 nominations. But you know what? That'd be a lot of fun if she did.
All right, move on to Outstanding Lead Actor in a Comedy Series. Bill Hader from Barry. Jason Segel from Shrinking. Love that he got that. Martin Short for Only Murders in the Building. Jason Sudeikis for Ted Lasso. Jeremy Allen White for The Bear. Again, I don't think Jeremy Allen White for The Bear should even be in the category franchise, but since he is under the category thing, I think this is his. Jason Segel was great in it. Love him in this. Jason Sudeikis as Ted Lasso in Ted Lasso. There was a remarkable lack of Ted Lasso in this season too. And he's won the award before, Martin Short. So I think this is a foregone. I think Jeremy Allen White gets this. What do you think?
Probably. Although, Barry.
Bill Hader for Barry.
What Bill Hader had to do in the last season of Barry was pretty extreme. So, in terms of performance-wise. But I think you're right. Only because I hear so many people within the industry talking about The Bear. More people have been talking to me about The Bear than any other show. And it's finally something I caught up on. And the second season was pretty great.
All right, we move on now to Outstanding Lead Actress in a Comedy Series. I think this one's a foregone too, but you never know. Christina Applegate for Dead to Me. Rachel Brosnahan, our new Lois Lane in Superman Legacy coming up, for The Marvelous Mrs. Maisel. Quinta Brunson for Abbott Elementary. Natasha Lyonne for Poker Face. Jenna Ortega for Wednesday. I think this is Quinta Brunson's award all day, all night. I think she's getting this. Again, Rachel's won this award already. There's going to be an emotional, thing for Christina Applegate. She is great in Dead to Me, but she's just announced that she's going to be retiring and stuff like that because of her health. I think it's Quinta Brunson. Maybe an outside chance for like a Natasha Lyonne for Poker Face because she is great in it. But what do you think about the list?
Again, these lists are incredible. Jenna Ortega's young. I think she's great in Wednesday, but maybe a little too mannered in terms of the performance, even though she was great. I think you're right. I think Abbott Elementary, because Quinta Brunson, she's the creator of the show, right?
Yes, she is.
And I mean, she's the force behind everything begins and ends with her. And so I think you're right. I think she'll probably take it. Although, I mean, Natasha Lyonne Poker Face really surprised me. It's so good. So I think it's probably Abbott Elementary's year, and Quinta Brunson's going to win. But I wouldn't be surprised if any of these actresses win, John.
All right, now something really interesting. The Outstanding Supporting Actor in a Drama Series category. 6 nominees, only 2 shows represented. White
Insane.
Lotus and Succession. So F. Murray Abram for White Lotus, Nicholas Braun for Succession, Michael Imperioli for White Lotus, Theo James for White Lotus, Matthew McFadden for Succession, Alan Ruck for Succession, Will Sharp for White Lotus, and Alexander Skarsgård for Succession. So sorry, I said 6. 1, 2, 3,
8.
4, 5, 6, 7, 8.
It's 4 and 4.
4 and 4. All White Lotus, all Succession,
You got a
all the
50-50
time.
chance.
You know what? I'm going to go with Matthew McFadden, the last man standing in Succession. He has actually been. He's been the guy in the background of the show the whole time, like with your main front four, right? The 3 main siblings and Brian Cox, who've been your main front four. He meanwhile, has been behind this, a little bit behind, but he is a major standout in the show. His performance has always been incredible. That end of not the most recent season, but the one before that, where they pull the whole Godfather thing at the end when he's standing there with Logan and stuff like that. I actually think he's the one who's going to take this. What do you think?
I think 100% because he's become a zeitgeist character. And if I can say, I've been a Matthew McFadden fan. He starred in the first season of a show. It was called Spooks in the UK. It was called MI5 here in the States. He played a character named Tom Quinn. He was the hero of the show. I've loved him since then. And thank God they brought him back in the 10th season. But I love him as an actor. And he is, I mean, he's one of the best slime balls who's ever been on TV.
One of the best slime balls.
And you sympathize with him because Sarah Snook treated him terribly.
Yep.
She deserved what she got from her husband.
You know what? He represents, if we were all living in the world of Succession, he represents the majority of us, I think. We're not Logan. We're not like we are probably him. Okay. Now let's go on. We were talking a little bit earlier about Emmy history being made with 3 actors from the same show being nominated for Best Lead Actor. Well, in the Outstanding Supporting Actress in a Drama Series, 5 of the nominees are from the same show. So we got Jennifer Coolidge from White Lotus, Elizabeth Debicki in The Crown, Megan Fahey in White Lotus, Sabrina, I'm not even going to try to pronounce her last name, in White Lotus, Aubrey Plaza in White Lotus, Rhea Seehorn in Better Call Saul, J. Smith Cameron in Succession, and Simona Tabasco in White Lotus. 5 nominees, all from the same show. I'm going to be honest with you. I don't even really love this show. But I'm not going to take anything away that the performances in the show are sick, but still 5 nominees here. What do you think about that?
I don't even know. I look at that list. I'm like, I wouldn't even know who to pick. Like I mean, Jennifer Coolidge is the favorite or whatever, but didn't she win last year?
I think last year or the year before. Yeah,
she's already won.
For
all
this.
These characters, all these performances were great. I mean, I like them all. I have no idea who's going to win this one.
You know, I'm going to pull it right out of that. I'm going to go dark horse. Elizabeth Debicki, I think, is going to win for The Crown.
Well, she's great.
Yeah.
She was great. She was perfect casting.
All right, and the last one we're going to cover here is Outstanding Supporting Actor in a Comedy Series. And we got a bunch of stuff. Anthony Carrigan, who I love him, in Barry. Phil Dunster in Ted Lasso. Brett Goldstein, who has won this before, Ted Lasso. James Marsden for Jury Duty. Didn't just get the comedy. He actually got nominated for this. Ebon Moss. Bacharach, I'm not even sure how to pronounce Ebon's name, to be honest with you, from The Bear, although he's great in it. Tyler James Williams from Abbott Elementary, and Henry Winkler from Barry. Brett Goldstein's won this before. I'm going to take the safe pick on this. I think Brett Goldstein's going to win this again. Not the strongest season of Ted Lasso, but once again, he was just fantastic in it. Anybody on this to stand out?
You know what? I would just love to see Henry Winkler.
I was going to say, Henry Winkler could be the dark horse.
He
could be.
Just because, hey, he's the Fonz for now and ever.
By the way, I said this is the last one. Outstanding Supporting Actress in a Comedy Series. Alex Bornstein from Marvelous Mrs. Maisel. Ayo Ebediri. I'm sure I'm mispronouncing her name, but she rules in this show, in The Bear. Janelle James, Abbott Elementary. Cheryl Lee Ralph and Abbott Elementary. Juno Temple and Ted Lasso. Hannah Waddingham, who she has won in this category before for Ted Lasso. Jessica Williams for Shrinking. I think it's Ayo's thing. Her character in The Bear, she is not the main character, but this show just doesn't work without her.
I completely
You know what I mean?
agree.
She's just one of those characters that you take. She's not the top thing of the pyramid, but she's that block that if you pull it out, the whole thing comes crashing down. She's kind of like the emotional center of the show for me. She can go everything from whimsical and sweet to harsh, hard in the kitchen, all that kind of stuff. I love her in this. I think she takes us. What do you think?
I think you're probably right. But again, a murderer's row of great performances.
Yeah.
I mean, anyone could take it. If Abbott Elementary has some kind of a sweep cooking, then
then that could go that way too.
But that performance in The Bear, dude.
All right, guys. Spend a lot of time on that, but it's a big deal. All these nominations. Again, we only touched just a couple of the 9,822 categories of the Emmys this year, but a lot of stuff to cover there. Okay, listen. We still have to talk about the writer's strike and what it looks like the studios are planning to starve out the writers. We got to talk about the major takeaways nobody's talking about from that casting report that came out about Nathan Fillion joining Superman Legacy. But before we get to those, we're going to take a minute here and thank a couple of sponsors of today's episode of the John Campea Show podcast, our friends at MasterClass and Birddogs. We want to take a moment and thank the sponsor of this video, MasterClass. Guys, as a small business owner, I am finding myself having to be in negotiations all the time, whether it's with new contractors, vendors, or even agencies that represent our company. Now, I don't like to go into these negotiations unarmed, so I found the perfect class on MasterClass, The Art of Negotiation by Chris Voss, a real-life former FBI lead hostage negotiator. Taking this class on MasterClass made me feel a lot more equipped and confident going into all these various negotiations I have to do on a regular basis. With MasterClass, you can learn from the best to become your best anytime, anywhere, and at your own pace. An annual membership starts at just $10 a month, and you get unlimited access to every instructor, thousands of online lessons, exclusive content, insight, and much more. There are over 180 classes to pick from, everything from filmmaking with Martin Scorsese all the way to cooking with the great Gordon Ramsay. In MasterClass, you will find practical lessons that you can apply to your life and work. So guys, get unlimited access to every class, and right now, as a John Campea Show listener, you can get 15% off when you go to masterclass.com/Campea. That's masterclass.com/Campea for 15% off an annual membership. masterclass.com/Campea. We want to take a second and thank the sponsor of this video, Birddogs. As a guy, there's only two things that are important to me when it comes to fashion: looking good, and even more importantly, being comfortable. And that's where our sponsors, Birddogs, come to the rescue. Offering everything from pants like stretch khakis, joggers, and sweatpants, to shorts like gym shorts and swimsuits, and even great looking and comfortable polo shirts. Birddogs, like their stretch khaki shorts, are designed to fit slimmer through the thighs and legs, giving you a truly sculpted look. Birddogs shorts fit way better than regular shorts that are made of a stiff, restricting cotton. You see, Birddogs fixed this issue by inventing cloud knit fabric that looks just like khaki, but stretches so you get a way slimmer fit without having to sacrifice movement. And that's just one of the reasons that by wearing Birddogs, you're going to look good and, more importantly, feel good. So guys, go to birddogs.com/Campea for a free Yeti-style tumbler with your order. That's birddogs.com/Campea for a free Yeti-style tumbler. Use code Campea. You won't want to take your Birddogs off. We promise you. And thank you to our friends at MasterClass and Birddogs for sponsoring this episode of the John Campea Show podcast. Okay, guys, with that down, let's get into this. We are on day 71 or 72 of the writer's strike. It's already been a long one. Now, of course, the studios, the AMPTP is the organized representative of all the studios in negotiating. They have been busy also coming to deals with the Directors Guild of America, and they did. They successfully reached a deal with the Directors Guild. It's who knows whether they're going to get a deal with the Screen Actors Guild. We're going to find out. Apparently, that just went to mediation. So we're going to find out if they were able to come to a deal or not. But they have not even been talking to the WGA. According to them, they are so far apart that they just don't even see any reason in talking to each other. Well, it looks like they may be playing beyond hardball, because according to a new report in Deadline, the studio's strategy, according to this report, seems to be to starve the writers out and force them to take whatever deal's on the table. This comes to us from the folks at Deadline. I'm going to read a bunch of it here, but it's all real thing. Now, receiving positive feedback from Wall Street since the WGA went on strike May 2nd, Warner Brothers, Apple, Netflix, Amazon, Disney, Paramount, and others have become determined to break the WGA, as one studio exec blatantly put it. To do so, the studios and the AMPTP, that's again the organization, that's their combined organization that represents them in collective bargaining, believe that by October, most writers will be running out of money after 5 months on the picket lines and no work. Now, this is where it gets really serious. The end game is to allow things to drag on until union members start losing their apartments and losing their houses, a studio executive told Deadline. Acknowledging the cold as ice approach, several other sources reiterated the statement. One insider called it a cruel but necessary evil. I want to read the first part of that again because it's just stunning to me. The end game is to allow things to drag on until union members start losing their apartments and losing their houses. Here's the thing. I'm going to say this up front. All right? I'm going to say this up front and get it out of the way. Make no mistake. If the WGA, the Writers Guild, were in a position that they had lots of leeway and could drag this out really long, and it would really start to hurt the studios, and the WGA had the option of doing that to really stick it to the studios and force the studios to accept a bad deal, don't doubt for 1 second that's exactly what the WGA would do. As Robert Meyer Burnett often says, it ain't what you deserve, it's what you negotiate.
Yes, sir.
And it's never been more true. So while it is, as the Deadline article put it, cold as ice, I'm just throwing out there, if you don't believe for a second that the WGA would do the exact same thing if the roles were reversed, you're crazy. They absolutely would. And I wouldn't really blame them. The job of the AMPTP and the job of the WGA as the two negotiating bodies in collective bargaining, their jobs are to get the best deal possible for their side. That's their job. That's what they're there to do. The studios believe, right or wrong, the studios believe that the things that the writers are asking for isn't tenable. They believe, or they would have us believe, that a number of things that the writers are asking for is simply not practical for them to be able to do. And they're things that the writers are refusing to budge on. And they may be right for refusing to budge on them. And so they're saying, no point even coming to the table. And now it's coming out, they're saying, you know what? The writers are the ones in the worst spot. We, the studios, are thinking, it hurts, it sucks, but we can hold out till Christmas if we needed to. We got banks of stored scripts that are already done. We have product in the pipeline already. I mean, it sucks, it's hurting, but we can hold out till December. The writers can't. They're going to start losing their apartments. They're going to start losing their homes. And at some point, the writers, they think, are going to start demanding that their union reach some sort of a deal, and they're going to reach a deal that doesn't come anywhere near what it was, the things they wanted. And look, this is the ugly side of the business, man. This is the ugly side of the business. I mean, but it's all about when you go into negotiations, knowing the position you're in. And according to the article as well, they were pointing out that the AMPTP, the studios here, want to make an example of the WGA. They want to make an example to all the unions, whether it's IATSE, in the future, the Directors Guild, in the future, the Screen Actors Guild, the Writers Guild themselves, that in the future, that if you think going on strike is going to stick the screws to us, we're going to make sure the screws actually get pinned on you, because we'll drag it out. We'll let you strike. We'll let it drag out forever. So according to this report, one studio exec saying they're going to use it as a way to make an example out of them, and the writers are going to pay the price. And again, on as cold and as heartless as it sounds, if you're in the position that you've got that leverage, you're going to use it. And this could get really ugly, Rob. I mean, this could get real nasty. You know many people in the WGA.
I do.
We know people who are on the other side too. We know people in the studios and stuff like that. But this is getting, again, it's moved beyond the, this is serious to this is ugly. I mean, this is real ugly. You read this report. What do you make of this?
Well, first of all, it's frustrating to see because at the studio executive level, most people haven't actually worked in production.
Right.
So they don't understand what it takes to do a good writer's room, to produce, to run a great set, and why these unions are important and what kind of work environments people are actually dealing with and what the Writers Guild is fighting for. So you have two sides that don't really understand each other at a fundamental level. The executives are trying to protect their bottom line. Totally understandable. But the problem is those same executives are profligate spending everywhere. $300 million for Indiana Jones, $350 million for Fast X, $300 million for 6 40-minute episodes of Citadel that needed to be rewritten and all this. You have the studio side, they're losing tens of millions of dollars because from their side, they don't know how to make effective programming, whether it's movies or TV. And at the same time, because of that, then they want to save money. And I get where they're coming from. Like you said, it's going to be really ugly. They're not even talking to each other.
Yeah, there's no negotiations going on.
But at the end of the day, someone's got to make this programming. And the studios have to sit down and go, we no longer know how to control budgets. We don't know how to control schedules. And these people, we're fighting against the very people that know how to make the sausage. And they've got to come to some kind of an agreement. Because at the end of the day, what are they going to do? Just not make anything? They think they're going to get AI generated. I can't even write a YouTube video script with Chat GPT without having to rewrite the whole thing. There's no way. The AI is not going to replace writers. So somebody's got to do something. And I don't think the studios, they think they can last, but they're going to need to fill up their programming slate because they're going to lose subscribers. They're not going to have anything to put in the theaters. It's bad. I think that both sides need to sit down and start realizing this isn't for the next couple of years. It's how are we going to move forward for the next 10 years, the next 20 years? Let's negotiate this so we can all move forward and create a great entertainment environment as more and more people have other things to do than watch content.
I heard one of the big sticking points is actually Netflix itself. Because on the grander scale, one of the big issues on the table for the WGA is, why did I just freeze on the word of it? Residuals.
Yes.
For those of you who don't know, residuals basically this. You write a show, you get paid for writing the show, but then you get paid more money in the future as the show is viewed and seen and all that kind of stuff. Residuals is a big. We did a story on, I can't remember the name of the writer, but we gave an example of this on the channel a while ago where this one writer who worked on this network TV show got a residual check for like $4,800, something like that. And then she did a couple of episodes of a much more popular streaming show, got a residual check for about $100, right? And that's one of the big issues. But apparently Netflix is the big stickler in the AMPTP because Netflix does not want to have any part of serious residuals. They don't want to be paying residuals. My big problem, look, I've already said I have no problem with the AMPTP saying we are here to look after our best interests. And if we have leverage, we're going to use it. I get it. My big concern, if I was a co-member of the AMPTP, is the problem seems that what you are fighting for, smaller to non-existent writer rooms, limited contract times for the writers, the things you're fighting for are going to result in you having less quality product. Mm-hmm. Like if you're fighting for quality product and you're trying to get it for as cheap as you can, great. But the things you're fighting for are going to create less quality product. And that's not good for business. That's not good for you. That's not good for the writers. I mean, that's the part that I think is a little bit concerning to me.
Well, look at the Emmy Award nominations. It's all driven by the quality of writing.
Yes,
we have
100%.
The best quality of writing on these prestige shows. We have auteurs, TV auteurs coming in, developing shows like Abbott Elementary. That show came from the heart. The creator of that, Miss Bunton, her mother, public school teacher, all that came from the heart. You don't get that. You can't just go out and find that. That's something that a genius writer or a genius showrunner brings you. And the thing about Netflix is, I get it, John, as we've talked about on this show a million times, Netflix, their only revenue is their subscriptions. They don't have an ad-based tier. And every single piece of programming that they produce has to be paid for by subscriptions. And look, some shows, like a Stranger Things, become a big hit. But unless they drive subscriptions, how do you say where's the revenue coming?
Yeah, exactly.
And so Netflix is going to fight this tooth and nail because they don't have, they have a small ad-based model or something, but not enough to pay residuals on 10,000 shows. So they don't even have a play. Oh, how are they going to give residuals? From where?
Yeah, and look, I honestly think this is how this is going to end. I think this is how it's going to end. I think it's going to end with the writers' union, because again, unfortunately, the reality is the studios have all the leverage here. This is going to end with the writers' union going to have to say, we're going to have to take what we can get. And on a couple of big issues, we're going to have to punt until 3 years from now, and which is when they would go into negotiations again. We're going to have to take some of these big important issues, and we're just going to have to punt for 3 years and try to position ourselves to be in a much stronger position in 3 years or 6 years to really attack these issues again, because I just don't think the Writers Guild is going to get what they want right now.
I also think with Netflix doesn't have anything to give them.
Yeah.
I mean, what Netflix has to do is agree to things on the front end. Give them bigger writers' rooms if they need them. Give them more time and pay them more up front, because you're never going to get residuals from Netflix. Where's that money going to come from?
Yeah, I agree. And I think that's what they should be aiming for right now. If you need the residual stuff issues, you're just going to have to understand, I don't think you're going to get it this year. Try to punt, get back on it again a little bit later. Anyway, huge issue, guys. And tomorrow we may be talking about an actor strike too, or they may have a new deal. It's gone to mediation. We'll figure that out. All right, let's move on to this one last thing here. So yesterday, late in the day, a big piece of news dropped about the upcoming James Gunn Superman legacy. We already found out that we've got our new Superman, David Cornsweet, and we have our Lois Lane, Rachel Brosnahan. But now we got a few more, including Eddie Gathegi, who's going to be playing Mr. Terrific. We're going to have Dora the Explorer herself, Isabella Merced, is going to be playing Hawk Girl. But of course, the headline, the showstopper, the main news, Nathan Fillion is playing Green Lantern's Guy Gardner, the Guy Gardner Green Lantern, who, I'm not going to lie, might be my favorite Green Lantern because he's such a dick, but likable at the same time. I really love, dig the Guy Gardner Green Lantern. So that's all come out there. And, everybody's talked. Yesterday we did a video about it. We talked about it, all that stuff. But there are two big factors, Rob, that I want to throw out. I think there are two big things that this casting indicates to us that I don't hear many people talking about. One of them we did address yesterday, but it's this, that we have just learned so much about this universe from this, because when Man of Steel came out, it was not just the beginnings of Superman, it was the beginnings of the superhuman in that world. Right? When Man of Steel came out, the world of Man of Steel was not populated by 50 superheroes and all that kind of stuff. It was really introducing the world as the world was coming into an age of superheroes. But with us finding out that in Superman, we're going to have a Hawk Girl, we're going to have a Green Lantern, we're going to have a Mr. Terrific. We have learned that this is a DCU that is not only foregoing the origin story of Clark Kent and jumping right into him already in his career at the Daily Planet, we are jumping into a new universe that already has the superhumans. So that's where, and I think that's a significant thing, right? It's not like the world is going to be agog and aghast when they see somebody fly. What? We've never seen that. Well, no, it's going to be a common thing in this universe. So that's the one thing that we learned. But the second thing that we didn't discuss yesterday, and I'm sure other people have noticed this and have talked about it. I'm just saying I haven't seen it. I haven't seen other people talk about this. With Nathan Fillion being cast as Green Lantern, I think we may have just found out about this is more of a hard reboot than a soft reboot of the DC universe than we thought. Because Nathan Fillion was already the, what was his name? The TDK, the dismember. I forgot what his name stood for. Yeah. And look that up for me, Ray, in Suicide Squad. He was in Suicide Squad, not covered in makeup or as an alien creature or something like that. He is clearly in this world, just in James Gunn's Suicide Squad.
The detachable kid.
The detachable kid, not the dismemberment kid. The detachable kid, TDK. And now he's Guy Gardner Green Lantern just a couple of years later. And Rob, I wonder, now there are a lot of question marks because we are getting another Peacemaker season. We got a Waller series coming. But we've always said about those, is that you only have to make very, very minor retcons, especially to Peacemaker, to say it was never a part of that DCEU. Just a very couple of minor retcons. And I can't help but wonder if this casting of Nathan Fillion as Guy Gardner is a very clear indication that this is actually going to be more of a hard reboot than a soft reboot that a lot of us have been suspecting. Anyway, you weren't here yesterday to talk about these castings at all. So what's standing out to you? And are there any big takeaways from this that you pull out of it?
Well, I think you're absolutely right. I mean, I always thought this was a hard reboot. This is starting from square one. Starting from square one. It's a whole new universe. But what I love about this is what this casting tells me is this is going to be fun.
Yeah.
I've always, like, if you look at James Gunn, his films, go back to Slither. He loves ensemble casts of nutty characters. And while people are like, oh, I don't want it to have the same tone as Slither or Suicide Squad or Peacemaker or Guardians of the Galaxy, but all those things have something in common. He puts together a great group of actors that work very well together, and that dynamic, that ensemble dynamic, makes his movies deliciously fun to watch. And he's going to do that with, I would expect that he's going to go for a tone. And people are like, well, I just want to see an epic Superman movie with no one else but Superman in it. I'm like, no. I think he's going to go for a fun, buoyant, I want to call it like, it's not, when I say this, I want people to understand, it's not going to be a screwball comedy, but it is going to be I think it's going to be a lot more lighthearted than Zack Snyder's Superman is. It's going to have a lot more of, I'm not like Ned Beatty, and Otis and Superman the movie, but it's going to have this expansive, more fun, more open, more bright approach. And I think these characters are going to be having a good time as opposed to the world ending or something. And if the world does end, then the way they're going to do it is going to be wildly entertaining, the way James Gunn, the way he's proven to us time and time again. I mean, Suicide Squad's great, or it's not the Suicide. It's the
Suicide Squad. Yeah.
The Suicide Squad. It's great. It's so much fun. You go back and you watch that movie. Everybody's having a good time. I'm having a good time as the viewer. And if James Gunn brings what he's brought to the Guardians, what he brought to Slither, what he brought to Peacemaker, we're going to get a banger of a movie. And Guy Gardner's hilarious. And maybe what I'm looking forward to, John, it's probably not going to happen in this movie. My favorite thing in Justice League International back in the 80s was when Batman punches out Guy Gardner. It's one of the most classic moments in DC history, and all the other heroes are laughing because Batman does it in one punch. And if they can recreate that, and I think James Gunn is not the kind of guy who's going to let that one go.
No, that's on James Gunn's mind.
It's on his mind. One punch, I wouldn't be surprised if that's in the movie.
Here's the thing, too. One of the things you have often brought up about it, and it doesn't have to be for every comic book movie, Dark Knight, for example. But one of the things you've always brought up is that if you're a filmmaker and you're making a comic book movie, you've got to be aware that whether it's a heavier, a lighter, whatever movie, you've got to also bring a sense of joy. You've often said that, right?
Yes.
About bringing a sense of joy to it. And I look at this and I see James Gunn wants it. Because even in a movie like The Suicide Squad, right? Where it's bonkers and crazy, you have Idris Elba and John Cena doing a kill-off, like seeing who can creatively kill the most people. But at the same time, in that same movie theater, people are openly weeping and crying at Ratcatcher's story. Or there's people
or
like
King
me.
Shark looking at people in the...
Yeah, my heart got moved watching King Shark just looking out the window at people having connection with each other, something he wants more than anything else in the world and thinks he'll never have, right? That's the type of stuff that James Gunn can bring to this stuff. Now, I've heard some people getting concerned about, well, wait a minute, this is a Superman movie. Oh, now you're just filling it with all these characters. Listen, guys, every movie you watch has dozens of characters in it.
Right.
You just don't know their names, right? Even a Christopher Reeve Superman. Well, you got Lois Lane, you got Jimmy Olsen, you got Perry White, you got Otis, you got Lex, on and on, and then
Miss
a bunch of
Tessmacher?
other. Yeah, that's right. You got all these characters, right? And any movie you go to, there's many, 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 many characters. It's just that coming into a Superman legacy, you know the name Guy Gardner, and you know the name Mr. Terrific, and you know the name. But really, it's not going to be a problem.
And I just want to point out Mr. Terrific is being played by one of the great additions to the third season of For All Mankind.
Yeah, Ray was very happy about that.
But I mean, I think that these are going to be peripheral characters that are more give us a sense of the world, that there are meta-humans in this world, there are aliens in this world, there are different kinds of heroes in this world that Superman will interact with, but I don't think it's going to be a team-up movie.
No, I don't think so
see
either.
Superman and Guy Gardner hanging out together going to fight evil.
I don't know, Jonathan, if you saw that picture of the three of them, again, Nathan Fillion or not, but like it's really interesting when you look at the new additions of Isabella Merced and Eddie Gathegi and Nathan Fillion. Two of them have superhero experience. Obviously, Nathan Fillion was just in Guardians of the Galaxy 3. He was in the Suicide Squad and others. And Eddie was Darwin in X-Men First Class. So you got, and of course, Dora the Explorer. Some people, I still see people wondering, she's too young. She's too young. Guys, she's not 14. She's 22 years old. She's okay, and she's going to be dynamite in this role.
Well, and another thing, both Guy Gardner, that means the Green Lantern Corps is there.
Right. And of course, we've got a Green Lantern series coming that James Gunn's already announced.
And Hawkgirl, if they go with whatever iteration, she's from Thanagar, or so now the Earth is part of a cosmic coalition that everybody's aware of. So I think that the universe that they're going for is going to be much more fantastical.
Yeah.
Which makes me excited.
I agree. All right, guys, listen. We are now going to go over and start taking questions from our YouTube channel members. Again, if you're listening to this podcast, we have a YouTube channel and we have a great dedicated group of supporters known as our YouTube channel members. And every day we ask them to submit topics and questions for us to address. But before we get to that, we're going to take another second here and thank another sponsor of today's episode, my mobile service provider, Mint Mobile.
We want to thank a sponsor of this video, Mint Mobile. From the gas pump to the grocery store, your utility bills and favorite streaming services, inflation is everywhere. Seriously, make it stop. Thankfully, there's one company out there that's giving you a much-needed break. It's Mint Mobile. As the first company to sell premium wireless service online only, Mint Mobile lets you order from home and save a ton with phone plans starting at just $15 a month. You guys know that ever since I switched to Mint Mobile, I've been saving almost 70% a month over my old phone plan. For people looking for extra savings this year, Mint Mobile offers premium wireless for just $15 a month. By going online only and eliminating the traditional cost of retail, Mint Mobile passes the significant savings on to you. All of their plans come with unlimited talk and text plus high-speed data delivered on the nation's largest 5G network. Use your own phone with any Mint Mobile plan and keep your same phone number along with all your existing contacts. Switch to Mint Mobile and get premium wireless service starting at just $15 a month. To get your new wireless plan for just $15 a month and get the plan shipped to your door for free, go to mintmobile.com/Campea. That's mintmobile.com/Campea. Cut your wireless bill to $15 a month at mintmobile.com/Campea.
And thank you to my mobile service provider, Mint Mobile, for sponsoring this episode of the John Campea Show podcast. All right, guys, with that down, let's get over and start taking our YouTube channel's questions. Jonathan, what do we got here?
CJ Rebirth writes, did you guys ever end up seeing the live-action Dora movie? It's a surprisingly fun family movie, and it pays respect to the show I grew up with.
It's funny. I think a lot of us just disregarded that movie when it was coming out. But then word started coming out that's like, you know what, this movie actually isn't that bad.
Right.
And people in it were, and listen, Merced got some really good props in it. And it is weird talking about her going into play in Superman, and all we've got to go by her is in really Dora the Explorer. At least the only thing I'm really familiar with her about. But yeah, I mean, it could have worked out just fine. All right, what's next?
All right, wrong one. Big Cookie writes, hey guys, with Netflix what do we do in The Shadow Returns tomorrow? What's your favorite episode, crew? Mine is either the Mark Hamill episode or the Superb Owl Party.
I would have to make a very, very large list.
Yeah, me too.
A very, very large list. But what does he call himself in the Mark Hamill episode? Something Daytona. Frankie Daytona? Human bartender. Like I forget the first name. He goes by blah, blah, Daytona. Human bartender. That is a remarkable one. The one where they're all on trial by the vampires and Guillermo slaughters all the vampires in the place like that. That one was hilarious. The first one where she's got this her doppelganger spirit in the little doll. Though I listen, I could sit here all day and go
Yeah,
through
there's
these.
too many to name.
I cannot wait for this show to come back. I love this show. And you know what? The funny thing is, Rob, when they were going to do it, I thought it was such a stupid idea. I thought it was just going to be a poor ripoff version, even though Taika Waititi's connected to it. Poor ripoff version of the movie. It's going to be stupid. I think I like it more than the movie.
Well, they've taken what the movie set up into so many great directions.
Yeah.
And they've really paid off the promise of what the movie brought up.
Yeah. All right. What's next?
Is Kane writes, hey guys, with Netflix spending 15 to 20 million per episode on live action Avatar and One Piece, do you think they will finally start releasing weekly or maybe 2 or 3 episodes a week?
Well, we've already seen that they started experimenting a while ago with breaking up seasons, right? So like even go back to the final season of Lucifer that they did a while ago. They did the experiment where they broke that into multiple parts. They did the same thing with the most recent season of Stranger Things, where they put out one part of the season, got everybody talking, then had a month break where everybody got to talk and buzz and buzz and buzz, and then they did the last part of the season. So they're already moving in that direction. I will not be surprised if Avatar becomes the first one that they actually do a week-by-week release. I won't, I mean, unless they think the show doesn't turn out that good, but I have a feeling that could be a really good one because the money they're putting into that show, you've got to take advantage of the week by week building a buzz. So I'll say there's a 30% chance that Avatar becomes that. What do you think?
Maybe. I mean, I think you're right. You know, one of the writers of Star Trek Picard on Twitter was talking about just the other day about how, I think it was Christopher Monfett, talking about how the weekly buildup for Picard season 3 helped the show gain momentum.
Yes.
And we've talked about that on the show forever. These genre shows, whether it's The Boys, it's fun to anticipate, especially with shows that have a following. And The Last Airbender is so beloved as an animated series that and it looks like this live action series, they've spared no expense and pulled out all the stops. It would be silly to just drop it all at once when they could generate that kind of buzz and that kind of discussion and that kind of excitement. I mean, I think they should do it weekly.
I agree. All right. What's next?
Lincoln writes, Truth, Justice, and the American Way. That's the description of Superman Legacy, but it sounds kind of similar to Reeves' version. After almost 50 years, shouldn't the fandom and the audience move on from that version?
They have.
Yeah.
They've moved on from that version many times. I mean, we got Smallville. We've got Superman and Lois. We had Henry Cavill's Man of Steel. This will be a little bit more in line. But remember, Truth, Justice, and the American Way, that wasn't created with Christopher Reeve's Superman. That's a long-standing Superman thing. So if they go back to a little bit of that, that's fine. But it's not like they've never done anything different from it. So I think it would be perfectly fine. All right, what's next?
Imperial Executioner writes, so happy for all the Emmy love for Prey. I wish I could have seen it in theaters, but in a way, I'm also glad it came out on streaming from an awards perspective. Maybe the possible sequel would get promoted to theatrical release now.
I mean, I was lucky enough that I did get to see it in theaters because they did a one night fan screening thing of it. And I was blown away. I think the best Predator movie since the original Predator.
Yeah.
But Rob, you and I started to discuss this a little bit before the cameras were rolling. This muddies the waters a little bit because there's always been this thing. Hey, when a movie comes out on Hulu or Disney Plus or Netflix, traditionally, when a movie is on a TV, that gets nominated for Emmys, not for Oscars. But we are seeing movies created by Netflix and whatever getting Oscar nominations. So Prey was a Hulu release, and it's being nominated as a TV movie on the Emmys. So which is it? Because I do not believe anything should be both qualify for Oscars and Emmys. I think it's got to be one or the other. And so this kind of muddies the water. What do you think about Prey getting nominated for Emmy, not Oscar? And where should streaming movies get their nominations?
Well, I mean, that's a good question, but I guess Hulu's considered TV. You know, it's covered up by the Emmys because whether they run a series or whether they run a movie, it was unique to Hulu. I think it's unfortunate, but it's great that I think it's great that this movie's getting recognized. That it could have been passed over entirely. And Fox, 20th Century Studios they've wrapped an Alien film that Fede Alvarez directed.
Yeah.
So I'm wondering, with this kind of success, does that mean they're going to sort of shunt this Alien movie directly to Hulu? Or are they going to decide to put it out in theaters? I guess it depends on the quality of the film. But, I mean, if they're going to do more and more of this, on one hand, it's nice they're getting recognition. But on the other, I certainly would have liked to have seen Hulu get the movie after a theatrical run for Prey. I would like to. And I think they left a lot of money on this table. The same way.
100%, yeah.
I mean, if you look at how much money Evil Dead Rise, which was supposed to be streaming, how much money that made in the theater. Smile was going to be a streaming movie. Like, these are genre films, science fiction and horror movies that have a fan base. You're going to make some money if you put them in theaters. And it's found money if you're planning on putting them streaming anyway. They're going to wind up there anyway.
And they'll be more successful on your streaming platform if you put them in theaters
Absolutely.
first.
We've talked about that for years. Yeah. Everything is more valuable if it had a theatrical release.
All right, let's do a couple more. What's next?
Okay, Tonespire writes, hey, John and crew, been a fan since the MC days. You guys go to the movies a lot, but is there one film that you have been to the cinema more than any other? Mine is Disney's The Jungle Book original. I forced my dad to take me every day for a month when I was 6 or 7 back in the 70s. I had a hot dog and an orange juice at every viewing.
Star Wars The Force Awakens I saw in theaters 17 times. And even like a good 12 of those times I hated the movie. But the thing is, I was working at a visual effects company at the time, and it's like it was the most remarkable. I will say this. It was the biggest leap forward in visual effects, I think, in movie history. Not the greatest movie, but what they did in The Force Awakens. And we were almost weekly, sometimes multiple times a week, would go, time for lunch meeting. And that was code for, let's go over to the theater and watch Phantom Menace again, because we were in the visual effects industry. And this was the most incredible thing we had ever seen from a visual effects point of view.
You've said Force Awakens and Phantom Menace.
Sorry, I meant Phantom Menace.
Okay.
Yeah, not The Force Awakens. Phantom Menace. It was the most incredible jump forward in things we'd ever seen at the time. And so I ended up seeing that movie in theaters 17 times, even though I hated it like 12 of those times. But the visual effects and what they were able to do at the time was crazy. What's the one movie you saw most in theaters?
Well, it's Empire.
Oh yeah,
I've watched Empire Strikes Back, and I haven't. I think but that was in 1980.
Yeah.
I think in the modern age, I saw Inception 8 times in the theater.
Really?
It just hit me. I was going through a period of time in my life where the movie was speaking to me on a number of different levels, and I just kept going. By the way, I think I saw Inception, other than one time, those 7 times I went by myself.
Wow.
So
you just felt like seeing it again?
I just kept going back. I went to the ArcLight and saw it 8 times.
All right, last question of the day. What's next?
KCJ Rebirth writes, okay, you got me, WB. I'm looking forward to Wonka now. Even though I more prefer Burton's movie because it adapts the book better, I still enjoy the Gene Wilder one, and this one is like a mix of both.
Yeah, that trailer for Wonka dropped yesterday.
It's fantastic.
I was mentioning there were a couple of movies going into CinemaCon that I would at best say I was lukewarm on, right? One was Barbie. One was Wicked. And one was Wonka. 3 movies that before CinemaCon I was very, very lukewarm on. And that coming out of CinemaCon, I was incredibly hyped for all 3. I thought this trailer for Wonka was fantastic. It had there's a great line in it that says, every good thing in the world started with a dream. I love that line. And the whole notion, and you're right, I feel like it was a nice mixture of the Gene Wilder and Johnny Depp iterations of the character. But man, Hugh Grant is an Oompa Loompa. Oh. That when they showed that CinemaCon, that brought the house down. In the trailer, I think they even extended it a bit in the trailer that they'd shot. What did you think about that Wonka trailer?
I thought it was incredible. I mean, again, talk about joy and a real sense of wonder. And it looks like it. Look, I love Gene Wilder because there's a streak. That movie's almost like a slasher film. It's like, let's kill the kids one at a time. It's like Wonka's. He's literally killing these kids. I mean, he's literally murdering them, drowning them, dissolving them, whatever he's doing until you get Charlie Bucket survives. But in this movie, there was such a sense of joy. Again, the joy that I'm looking for, the sense of wonder. Timothée Chalamet looks terrific as the lead, and just all the different. I mean, drinking the juice or drinking the and floating up and eating the chocolates. I just loved everything in it. It really put a smile on my face. Now I used to judge movies if I wanted to see them again. Now if I watch a trailer twice back to back, I'm like, that means, and I've watched that trailer back to back. So, and I love Roald Dahl's books, and I can't wait to see this movie.
I did the same thing yesterday with the Ahsoka trailer. I watched it like 3, maybe 4 times.
That was a
in row.
banger.
It was good. We're seeing Ray Stevenson and that, God rest his soul. Anyway, guys, that'll do it for today's installment of the John Campea Show podcast. Thank you so much for being here and making this show part of your day. Big special thank you to all you guys who sent in those questions. Number one, because you gave us great fun things to talk about. But number two, by being YouTube channel members, you guys are supporters of our channel and everything that we do here. And we thank you guys so much for that support. So for everybody in the room, Ray or
we started?
Jonathan Voico.
Hey, see you guys
And of
next time.
course, catch him Saturday nights, right?
Saturday nights for the next rest
on
of July.
CW, the greatest geek year ever, 1982. Also on his own YouTube channel, Robservations, Mr. Robert Myronette. Great having you here, of course. And of course, big thank you to all you guys for being here. My name's John Campea, and until next time, my friends, bye-bye.